Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Hype Wrench, and by Junk Be Gone, and by the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Welcome into the Junk Be Gone studios for today's episode of the Sports Source. Tennessee on the wrong end of a humiliating beatdown in Columbia, Missouri yesterday. They lost 36-7. Interesting note was sent to me yesterday that Tennessee and Missouri 6-6 in their 12-game series so far. 6-6 sounds like a good series. 7 of the 12 games have been decided by 20 points or more. So good series, few good games. And yesterday a bad game for Tennessee. We will dive completely into that. We'll do a little bit of Georgia. This show was going to be half Missouri, half Georgia. Now it's 80% Missouri, 20% Georgia because, look, like you, we're not going to sit here and talk about, well, if things go right. Let's just talk about what went wrong, and then we'll worry about Georgia later in the show. Let me show you what's coming up. It's a lot. Top takeaways from yesterday's game, how it happened, why it happened. Expensive coaches, that's one to watch. There's even some news on that this morning. Who was the worst position group on the field yesterday? That should be fun. The Stowell train's going to run some people over. How important was revenge in Missouri's mindset? UT's bowl outlook right now. Road woes for Tennessee versus a lack of comebacks for Tennessee. That'll be interesting. Lots of numbers there for you to see. Tennessee's players' mindset going into Georgia. Dug up an absolutely, it will stun you, a stat for the Georgia-Tennessee series, a poll for your take, and, of course, the Cavaliers line. Now, that is a full show, and this first segment of this full show is brought to you by Junk Be Gone. When it comes to cleaning your home or your business or your property, be smart, use Junk Be Gone. If you have stuff that you just can't demolish, big stuff like sheds, barns, swing sets, they can do it and haul it off for you. If you just have big things that you can't lift and move on your own, boats, dressers, couches, they can drag it off for you. Junk Be Gone makes cleaning your property easy as can be. I know because I've told you a million times. I use them every year. junkbegone.biz to learn more. All right, let's welcome in the first wave of panelists. We have Jimmy Hyams right here, VFLs the rest of the way, Mike Stowell, Kevin Simon, Will Overstreet. And let me go ahead. You see what the topic's going to be, Tennessee's flop at Missouri, but let's go ahead and put the poll up for today. As you can see, it's pretty simple. Which Tennessee loss was worse? South Carolina last year, Missouri last night. Which one was worse? And I left it generic, so you can factor in whether or not, well, the stakes were bigger last year. Yeah, but that was a more complete beatdown yesterday. That's up to you to decide how you're going to handle that. Which Tennessee loss was worse? And the early responses are South Carolina, 70%. So we'll see if you change that as we go through it. All right, simple segment. We just get the top takeaways on what was a simple beatdown. Not much to put into it. You just got whipped in every facet. Kevin Simon, what was your top takeaway from that game?
Yeah, so my top takeaway of the game was Missouri's players. They had two guys that decided that they weren't going to be denied and willed their teams to win between the performance between Cody Schrader and then Brady Cook. You know, what he did in the passing game, what he did with his legs. Yeah. We didn't match their energy. Our stars, Joe, I didn't think Joe had a terrible game. I didn't think the receivers had a great game, but still didn't match their energy. Same thing with Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright wasn't quite himself yesterday. Yeah. And I'm not really sure,
Had the fumble, which was incredibly costly.
But he wasn't quite himself. Yeah. And you know what? Missouri had a good plan. Heupel talked about it in the telecast. It's like, they showed some things, gave us some unscouted looks, showed some things that we didn't expect. But yeah, like you said, total beatdown across the board. But I was a little disappointed that our players didn't match their energy.
Will Overstreet.
Total beatdown. It reminded me a lot of Nebraska-level beatdowns back in the late 90s and 2000s. One of those teams that I was on. And really, it was. You just got out physical. I mean, the bigger, badder man showed up and beat you down in Missouri yesterday. And it goes to what Kevin said. That team was angry. They said 4 quarters of hell. Well, that's what they brought to Tennessee. And it was really strange because we talked about UConn I thought would be the letdown game. They looked flat against Missouri. And that, to me, was the surprise that you were up for UConn and flat for Missouri.
Will Overstreet. Not Will Overstreet.
Yeah, well,
Mike Stowell. That's Will.
that's
Mike Stowell, good point. Will Overstreet.
It's the only time you've told me I've ever had a good point, and it comes from Will. So I think it goes along.
It is what it is, Mike. I'm sorry.
Of course. I think it goes along with the beatdown, but it's like, okay, that's your effort. That's what you have when, still at that time, when you kick off, you have a chance to play in the SEC East Championship, or win the SEC East, play in the championship. So for me, it's you get matched with an intensity. They come out and they just waylay you. They kick your rear in the trenches. And so, like, my takeaway is, how are you not up for that game? How are you not ready to play? When you know they're going to be coming for you, they're going to be gunning for you, and you lay an egg like that. That's my takeaway.
Thank you, Sterling. Jimmy, your takeaway.
Tennessee went into that game with the number 1 rushing offense in the league.
Tell you what, since you're going in this direction, let's put up a graphic to underline your point here, if we can. I think we've got there we go. How it started, Tennessee, number 3 in the nation, number 1 in rush offense in the SEC. And then you see what they did. How it started on defense, you're number 14 in the nation in rush defense, number 1 in the SEC, and you see what happened. Jimmy.
So you go from averaging, 227 yards, you're number 1 in rushing offense, you get 83 yards. Now, you had averaged 360 yards against Missouri rushing the last 2 games. You get 83. Then you can't stop the run. Missouri goes for 255 yards. So you can't run it with the number 1 run offense. You can't stop it with the number 1 run defense. And most of it was Schrader. Schrader got over 200 yards. But Brady Cook converted a 3rd and 9 on that first series. He converted a 3rd and 10 from his own 1 yard line.
Yeah, he had 2 where he ran it out of the end zone, 3rd and long. Yeah.
So you got out rushed both ways, and you got whipped at the line of scrimmage.
Gentlemen, I was surprised, most of all. The thing that was glaring to me was I went in thinking this was kind of a 50-50 game. I gave Tennessee an edge because the last 2 years you had run for 700 yards against Missouri. 7.5 yards per carry, 7.5 yards per carry. And then you just get completely shut down because most of those 83 yards came in the fourth quarter in trash time. A lot of that came late. They were at 35 yards at the first half. That was the thing that stood out to me. I thought, I don't know that they're not going to score 65 again, but they've had a hard time at Missouri shutting down this offense. I did not see Tennessee scoring 7 points and Missouri having that success against your run game. And people have been asking, what's the explanation? My explanation is it's one of those days. If you're not Alabama and Georgia, that stuff happens, is my take. And we say that all year, that you look around and there's going to be a day where the best pass offense in the country is awful. There's going to be a day where the team that can't sack anybody has 7 sacks. I just chalk it up as one of those bad days. Is there an explanation that you have that is more than just, it wasn't your day?
I think anger and emotion on one side of the game and flat and not emotional and maybe reading the press clippings or something like that. That plays a big part of it. The emotion of how you play a game when you're playing somebody that's good and as talented as you plays a big advantage. And if you don't come with it and they do, it's a problem.
And I think scheme. I think Missouri's scheme, both sides of the football, I think Tennessee got out-coached. Heupel mentioned that they showed some things that they hadn't seen before, which probably helped shut it down. And the other thing, with Missouri running it, as effective they did, so Tennessee shut down Kentucky's running back, Ray Davis, but their quarterback wasn't a running threat.
Yeah.
When you've got that running threat, which obviously Missouri has, I think that just made it harder for the defense to deal with Schrader.
Yeah, no, I feel like, but to Jimmy's point, our creativity on offense, it wasn't there. You know, we'd seen them do some different things against Alabama, open things up, seen them do some different things against Kentucky. But, you know, we ran more slants. I didn't see the stack switch release. So just some of the creativity on offense wasn't there. My main takeaway is when you look at Tennessee's schedule this year and our non-conference opponents who we played, Virginia, Austin Peay, UT San Antonio, and UConn. I mean, it's arguably the easiest schedule in recent Tennessee memory. You know, Jimmy probably can speak to this, you know, better than anybody. So when we're running for 200 yards, 300 yards against the Virginias, the Austin Peays, the UT San Antonios, and the UConns, it really skews those stats both ways. One, because our running stats are up, plus our defense isn't on the field. I just think we're not as talented as what we think. And strength of schedule matters. Right?
Yeah.
And so when we gotten in these competitive games, we've been exploited.
Well, that's why I've been beating the drum for years to stop scheduling all the cupcakes.
Well, I
But
had said this was not a 50-50 game, and I was right.
Oh, yeah.
There is one other thing, is you face two teams that have run outside zone primaries that run game, Florida and Missouri, and they both took advantage of that. I just don't know, maybe right now, looking at how you're fitting up on the edges, how your team is playing the zone, outside zone game, seems like a weakness, and I guarantee you're going to see it this week.
I'm also, this week, you get 2 games left, so I don't know how big of an issue this is going forward. But now you're down, you lost Brew McCoy. Now Thornton's hurt right after he made a really nice catch yesterday. Haddon's out. Now McDonald looks like he could be out. You're also starting to wear thin at a couple of your key positions as well. One to look at moving forward. Let me go ahead and show you some stats very quickly here. Game gauge, these are the ones we looked at before the season. These are the numbers that if Josh Heupel's teams hits them, he usually wins 90-95% of the time. Rushing yards, nowhere near it. Yards per rush needs to get to 4.5 a carry, didn't get near it. Did get to yards per play, but a lot of that was scrub time nonsense, so that's a little misleading. Got 3 sacks yesterday, but boy, that pass rush didn't feel like it was very effective despite the 3 sacks. Next, let's take a look. This was a bad day on this graphic. All of them on the bad side of things. He is now 16-19 when he allows 27 or more points. He is now 1-11 in his 6 years as a head coach when he scores less than 30, when his offense scores less than 30, 1-11, and 5-8 when losing the turnover battle. But then here's another one. I've had this one stacked up for a while. I've had a lot of people say, so this is what you get for $9 million, huh? This is a $9 million coach. And the answer is, yeah, pretty much. These are all the coaches in the country who make $8 million or more a year. There are 14 of them. Basically, you got Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and Ryan Day. And look, I lived in Columbus. The people up there aren't happy that it's lost to Michigan twice in a row, and he doesn't do anything in the playoffs. So basically, you got Nick Saban and Kirby Smart are the two that are happy. Their fan base are happy with them. Dabo Swinney's making a ton of money. This is in order, by the way. Dabo Swinney 6-4 this year. Mel Tucker, scandal, already fired. Lincoln Riley 7-4. Brian Kelly 7-3. Jimbo Fisher 6-4. He's being fired today, so he's out at Texas A&M today. Mark Stoops 6-4. He's $9 million a year. Josh Heupel 7-3. Lane Kiffin 8-2. He got dog stomped yesterday. Never beats a good team. James Franklin 8-2. Never beats a good team. Jim Harbaugh, his team's undefeated. He's probably going to be NCAA kiboshed at the end of the year for a scandal. He's suspended right now. Mario Cristobal 6-4. You see all the ones who lost yesterday. So many beatdowns. We tend to look at our own coach and our own team under a microscope, and we don't pay attention to what's going on elsewhere. So if you're saying, well, this is what you pay $9 million for, huh? Pretty much, yes. Unless you've got Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and maybe Ryan Day, all these schools are overpaying. It's just what you do. It's cost of doing business. I'm not Josh Heupel's agent. I'm just showing you the stats. All right, when we come back, what was the worst coaching move by Tennessee? There were a lot. We've only got one segment, so it'll be a fist fight to get it all in. Come on back on the Sports Source.